जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय, निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे, हरि हरि बोल। Thank you very much once again, Param Karuna Prabhu, for kindly hosting today's session on Śrī-Caitanya-Śikṣāṣṭakam. And I'm very happy to see all the wonderful devotees here today. Dhameshwar Mahaprabhu Prabhu could not be present here today. He had some engagement. But I'm happy, Param Karuna Prabhu, you have taken up the responsibility of being the host today. Today is also the
Thank you,
Tirobhav
Prabhu.
Tithi. Thank you. Today is also the Tirobhav Tithi, celebration of Srila Prabhupada. So I offer my humble obeisances to Srila Prabhupada. I pray for his blessings so that I can be successful in my attempt to speak something on Śrī-Caitanya-Śikṣāṣṭakam. With that, I'd like to begin today's 34th session on Śrī-Caitanya-Śikṣāṣṭakam. I'll begin by sharing my screen and welcome to all of you to this 34th session of Śrī-Caitanya-Śikṣāṣṭakam. We'll begin with the verse that was composed for this particular second verse of Śrī-Caitanya-Śikṣāṣṭakam. Ekātmani dvyavasthāyam tridehe vākchatushtaye panchatattve षडक्षेषु सप्तचक्रेषु मे तथा सदा विशतु गौरांग मा प्रभुमुखोद्गतम् रम्यं शिक्षाष्टकं येन धन्यः स्याम भूरि भूरिशः. So we've read the translation for this verse many times previously. So I'll skip the translation. Devotees can refer to the previous sessions for the translation of this verse. In every session, there is a new verse on Sri Harinam. Similarly, in this session, we begin with a new verse on the glorification of Sri Harinam. And this verse is from the bhagavan Nam Mahatmya Sangraha, and it is also quoted in other literature by our acharyas. This verse is as follows: Jitam tena jitam teneti nishchitam jihvagre vartate yasya harir ityaksharadvayam. So this verse is quoted in Bhagavan Nam Mahatmya Sangraha, and it is also found in Hari Bhakti Vilas 11th chapter. This is verse 449. The verse is jitam tena iti nishchitam jihvagre vartate yasya harir iti aksharadvayam. So harir iti aksharadvayam, if the two syllables hari, jihvagre vartate, if they are dancing on the tips of an individual's tongue, then jitam tena, he has conquered, he has conquered, he has conquered. He has conquered whom? Sri Sanatan Goswami explains in the commentary, he has conquered Bhagavan. And nishchitam, certainly, indeed, he has conquered Bhagavan. So this is a wonderful verse glorifying Sri Harinam, which specifies how by uttering Bhagavan's name, Bhagavan becomes conquered. And we move ahead now to the verse under discussion, which is the second verse of Śrī-Caitanya-Śikṣāṣṭakam. The verse is in the meter Vasant Tilakam. I'll sing it again. Nam namakari bahudha nija sarva shaktis tatrarpitani amitah smaranena kalaha etādṛśī tava kṛpā bhagavan mamāpi durdaivam īdṛśam ihājani nānurāgaḥ. Param Karuna Prabhu, here is the Anvay. Can you kindly read the Anvay?
Yes, Prabhuji. O Bhagavan, in regard to your unlimited names, immense variety has been manifested by you. Moreover, all of your personal potencies have been eternally invested in these names, and no specific time has been fixed for remembering them. Such is your causeless mercy. Yet, my misfortune is such that no genuine attachment was developed by me in these names.
So here is the translation, which is nothing but the same Anvay. And we are discussing the final sentence. Such is your causeless mercy, yet my misfortune is such that no genuine attachment was developed by me in these names. And Acharyas such as Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur Mahashay say that the misfortune is mainly due to Nam Aparadh. And hence we are discussing the Nam Aparadhs. In the previous session, we have discussed the seventh Aparadh, and that is Namno Balad Yasya Hi Papa Buddhir Na Vidyate Tasya Yamay Hi Shuddhi. That a person who even thinks of committing pap on the strength of Harinam, even multiple yamas, multiple rules and regulations, or multiple yamarajas cannot purify such a person. And the next aparadh is supposed to be dharma, vrata, tyaga, hutadi, sarva, shubha, kriya, samyam, which means that to consider Harinam as one of the auspicious ritualistic, similar to one of the auspicious ritualistic activities, but this aparadh was done in the very beginning of the discussion. The very first aparadh that we covered was this one, to consider Harinam as one of the auspicious ritualistic activities mentioned in the Vedas. So I'll not do that same aparadh again because it was already covered when we started discussing these 10 Nam aparadhs. So we come to the ninth one, and the ninth one is in front of us. It is as follows: Ashraddhadhane vimukhe shranavati yaschopadeshah shivanama aparadha. Translations: Yascha upadeshah, those instructions which are given to a particular person, even on seeing that the person is ashraddhadhan, faithless, vimukhe, vimukha, disinclined, and ashrinvati, ashrinvat, unwilling to listen. Yascha upadesha, still if an instruction is given, then it becomes Shiva Nama Aparadha. Shiva Nama Aparadha can have two meanings here. First meaning of Shiva is Bhagavan Shiva. So it becomes an aparadha against Bhagavan Shiva's Naam. Shri Sanatan Goswami says in the commentary that since Bhagavan Shiva is not different from Bhagavan Vishnu in so many ways, so basically it is an aparadha against Harinam too. And another meaning of Shiva is auspicious. So Shiva Naam aparadha means aparadha against Shiva Naam, auspicious Naam. So both meanings can be there here. In any case, this is the ninth aparadha, to give instructions to a person on seeing that the person is faithless, disinclined, and unwilling to listen. When we look into the popular translation of this particular aparadha that is available to us, the popular translation is as follows. Param Karuna Prabhu, can you read the popular translation that is available to us?
To instruct a faithless person about the glories of the holy name.
So this is the commonly available translation of this particular aparadha. And faithless person, Param Karuna Prabhu, has in the Sanskrit, what is the term for faithless person? Can you please point out?
Ashraddhadhane.
So ashraddhadhan is the term for a faithless person. But the verse is giving two other adjectives, and those two adjectives are vimukhe and ashrinvati. So sometimes during a translation, some of these details, nuances don't come out. So it is just roughly translated as faithless. But if you look into detail, what is being specified is that the person should have three characteristics. Because what will happen is that we do not know whether a particular person is faithless or not when we are speaking to them for the first time. So, Param Karuna Prabhu, if I am speaking to a person for the first time and I do not know whether the person is faithless or not, will my speaking to them about Harinam or about glories to Bhakti turn into an aparadh?
I don't think so, Prabhuji, because it says, I mean, to do this, you have to know first.
So, if we take only faithless and we skip the remaining two adjectives, vimukhe and ashrinvati, then there is a problem that, the aparadh may start applying to us in relation to people whom we don't even know, whom we are instructing, but whom we don't even know whether they have faith or not. Therefore, the aparadh clearly gives three factors. So those instructions which are given to a particular person, even on seeing that the person is first ashraddhadhan. So when we give an instruction for the first time about bhakti or about Harinam, we may see that the person is ashraddhadhan, is faithless. And the second time we may try to give them an instruction and we may come to know that vimukha, disinclined, vimukha, whose face is turned away, disinclined person. Now twice we have tried. Now we have clearly stepped into a zone which we should not cross. Now the third time we tell them and they don't listen to us, they will become ashrinvati. And as soon as they become ashrinvati, we enter into the zone of the aparadh. And that instruction which is given to such a person becomes Shivanama Aparadha. There are two meanings to Shivanama Aparadha, as I have specified, which means that we can instruct a person twice, but if the person is faithless and disinclined, the third instruction to such a person will definitely lead to an aparadha. That is the meaning of this particular aparadha. So the aparadh does not start applying on the first instruction. The aparadh does not start applying on the second instruction. The aparadh starts applying after second instruction, which means to repeatedly instruct a faithless person. That is what is the meaning of this particular aparadh. And that is how the aparadh starts applying. Now that we have an understanding of the aparadh, which is literally consistent with the Shastra, then we will start exploring the first and the most important term, which is ashraddhadhan. Because this term is very important and we have to understand this particular term, what is Shraddha. And this particular term Shraddha is derived from the suffix shrat, and shrat means satyam, and the verbal root is dha. Dha means to bear, to uphold. And according to rules of Sanskrit grammar, atascha which is in the third adhyay, third chapter of Panini's Sutras, it gets the suffix ang. So it becomes shrat, dha, ang, and its final term is shraddha. Shraddha is to bear, to carry, to uphold the truth as given in Shastra. That is the meaning of the term Shraddha. So to bear dha, to bear what? Shrat. What is Shrat? Satyam, truth. So to carry the truth, to hold the truth, to bear the truth within our heart. But which truth? Truth that is mentioned in, as it is given in Shastra, is called Shraddha. That is the meaning of Shraddha. And Shraddhadhan is from the same prefix and the same verbal root, Shrat and Dha, but the suffix is Shanach, and it becomes, the meaning is Shraddhadhan refers to a person who is having Shraddha, who is exhibiting Shraddha. And Ashraddhadhan is opposite of Shraddhadhan, a person who is not exhibiting Shraddha. So that is the meaning of the term Ashraddhadhan, a person who is not exhibiting Shraddha, and not exhibiting Shraddha is not bearing or upholding the truth of Shastra, truth as it is given in Shastra. That person is known as Ashraddhadhan. In the Bhagavad Gita, 4th chapter, verse number 40, Bhagavan Shri Krishna says that there are three types of people who fail on the path of spiritual life. And Bhagavan says, Agyascha ashraddhadhanascha samshayatma vinashyati. In that 4th chapter, 40th verse also, Bhagavan pulls out three people who are destined for failure. And the second amongst them is ashraddhadhan, a person who does not have Shraddha. And which Shraddha? Shastriya Shraddha. Shraddha in the Shastra is not present with such a person. So that person is known as ashraddhadhan. So when the Aparadha says that a person is ashraddhadhan, a person is faithless, it means that the person is faithless in the message of the Shastra. Now, Param Karuna Prabhu, it is very simple and easy to become Shraddhadhan from Ashraddhadhan. To become faithful from faithless, you just have to say, I believe in Shastras as the Pramana, as the proof. And from Ashraddhadhan, you can become Shraddhadhan, somebody who is having Shraddha. So, isn't it so easy that you simply say, Vedaha Pramanam. The Shastras, the Vedas are Pramana. They are the ultimate authority, the ultimate proof. And then from Ashraddhadhan, you become Shraddhadhan. Doesn't it sound very easy, Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhuji.
It sounds very easy. And this basic understanding has been given by the Acharyas. It says, Tasmat Shastrartha Vishwasa Eva Shraddha iti. So what is Shraddha? So Shastra Artha Vishwas. Implicit faith, Vishwas, in the Artha, in the essential meanings of Shastra. Eva, that itself is known as Shraddha. So that Sri Jiva Goswami has said in his commentary to Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu 1-17. Now, this is a basic understanding of the term Shraddha, because there are many people who say that we have Shraddha, Shastriya Shraddha, we believe in what Shastra says. But Sri Jiva Goswami is going to point out that there are many individuals who give lip service to Shastra by saying that Shastra is Praman, we believe in what the Shastra says. But when it comes to living a life which is according to the vision given by Shastra, these individuals utterly fail. Do they really have Shraddha? That is the question. Because to verbally say, I have Shraddha and I believe Shastra is Praman is one thing. And to have Shraddha, to bear the truth, to hold the truth to such a degree that you mold your life around it and you start living what is given in the Shastra, that is something completely different. So Sri Jiva Goswami gets into a detailed understanding of Shraddha. And he says, Kintu Shraddha Sadbhava eva katham gyayate iti vicharyam. Question: how shall we ascertain the presence of Shraddha in an individual? Very important question he asks in the Bhakti Sandarbha. How do we know that a person has Shraddha? And then, without wasting much time, he says, Tatra cha lingatvena purvam sharanapattir upadishta eva. In this regard, it has been explained that Sharanagati of Bhagavan is the factor needed for determining the presence of Shraddha. In other words, a person who has Shraddha and not simply lip service, a person who is genuinely living a life of Shraddha, will be surrendered towards Bhagavan, will have Sharanagati towards Bhagavan. That is the indication, because at the end of all the Shastras, Sharanagati towards Bhagavan is the main highlighted factor. Even at the end of the Bhagavad Gita, the final instruction given by Bhagavan to Arjuna is about Sharanagati. Sarva dharman parityajya mam ekam sharanam vraja. So this is the final instruction that Bhagavan gives to Arjuna. And not only the final instruction, the initial instructions also do not come unless and until Arjun has surrendered as a disciple to Bhagavan. Because Arjun says in the beginning, Yat Shreyah Syan Nishchitam Bruhi Tanme Shishyasteham Shadhi Mam Tvam Prapannam. What is beneficial for me, please tell me. I am your disciple. Instruct me, for I am surrendered unto you. This is what Arjun says in the beginning. So, in the beginning, Arjun displays Shraddha towards Bhagavan. But Param Karuna Prabhu, how does Arjun display his Shraddha practically towards Bhagavan? By doing what?
By accepting the instruction to fight the battle.
That is at the very end. But in the very beginning, how does Arjun show? I quoted the verse, Shishyasteham Shadimam Tvam Prapannam. So Prapannam, what is the meaning of the term Prapannam?
To surrender.
Yeah, so at the very beginning, Arjun shows his Shraddha by Sharanagati. And at the very end also, he shows his Shraddha by Sharanagati, by complete acceptance of Bhagavan's will, and Karishye Vachanam Tava, I will do as you say. So Arjun fights. So Srila Jiva Goswami says the litmus test of Shraddha is to see if somebody has Sharanagati towards Bhagavan. That is the litmus test. That is a person whom we call Shraddhavan or Shraddhadhan, a person who is equipped with Shraddha. And this Sharanagati is not something vague. It is not something, just surrender to the air or something like that. Sharanagati has 6 factors as defined in the Hari Bhakti Vilas. These 6 factors are mentioned in the Hari Bhakti Vilas. Anukulyasya sankalpah, pratikulyasya varjanam, rakshishyati vishwaso, goptratve varanam tatha, atmanikshepa karpanye, shadvidha sharanagati. So Sharanagati or surrender unto Bhagavan manifests in 6 definite ways. So there is nothing vague about Sharanagati. There are 6 definite ways. First, Anukulyasya sankalpaha, acceptance of principles favorable for bhakti. Pratikulyasya varjanam, rejection of principles that are unfavorable for bhakti. Rakshishyati iti vishwaso, firm faith that Bhagavan will protect oneself. Goptratve varanam tatha, accepting Bhagavan as one's sole guardian. Atmanikshepa, surrendering one's very self to Bhagavan. And karpanya, exhibiting genuine humility in front of him. This is Shadvidha. These are the 6 ways of Sharanagati. Dear devotees, these 6 are supposed to happen automatically in the case of a person who has developed even a little affection towards Bhagavan. They happen automatically. It's not that you have to collect 6 petals from 6 different places and then put them together to make the complete flower of Sharanagati. These 6 are supposed to blossom naturally within a person who has received the seed of genuine bhakti from their guru. For such a person, these six happen automatically. So, anukulyasya sankalpah pratikulyasya varjanam rakshishyati iti vishwaso goptritve varnam tatha atmanikshep karpanya shadvidha sharanagati. These six are the actual indicators of genuine love for Bhagavan. A person who has genuine affection for Bhagavan will have these in his or her character. The final one is karpanya. Karpanya is genuine humility, and to show that to show this feeling of miserability. Bhagavan, I am miserable in this world. That is called karpanya. And these six are considered to be the indicators of genuine sharanagati. Sri Jiva Goswami further says, and this is a very important section, dear devotees, because it really puts our existing conceptions of Shraddha to the test. Sri Jiva Goswami says, Kimcha Shraddhavatah Purushasya. Now let's say there is a person who has Shraddha. Bhagavad Sambandhi Dravya Jati Guna Kriyanam Shastre Shruyamaneshu Aihika Vyavaharika Prabhaveshvapi Na Kathanchid Anashvaso Bhavati. He says there never occurs any faithlessness pertaining to the objects of Bhagavan, even when he hears about the practical worldly subject matters in Shastra. In Shastra, there are many practical worldly subject matters which you can verify by pratyaksha praman, directly by observing them. For example, you go to Jyotish Shastra. Jyotish Shastra is astronomy and astrology, and especially the astronomy section, which will accurately predict when solar eclipses are going to occur, when lunar eclipses are going to occur. This is that part of Shastra which works in front of your eyes. Even when the scientists had not made these big telescopes, or they did not know accurately when to predict when a solar eclipse or lunar eclipse will be there, the Shastras such as Surya Siddhanta were accurately predicting all these phenomena. So Param Karuna Prabhu, doesn't Shastra give practical worldly reality in front of us?
Yes, Prabhuji.
So why not just accept those Shastras and why keep faith in this Shastra which speaks about bhakti, which appears to be so vague?
Because we have to accept it as a whole. We cannot pick and choose based on our ability to confirm.
All right, but why not put greater faith in Shastras which give direct perception, result in direct perception?
I feel that, yes, Prabhuji, and that helps to build faith in the remaining body of the Shastra, which we cannot verify today.
Right. So, Shraddha, Sri Jiva Goswami says, when people hear in Shastra about practical realities, worldly realities, which you can verify from Shastra, and it is Shastra which gives it. And then many people, they become a little skeptical towards that part of Shastra, which does not speak about worldly realities. So that part of Shastra, which speaks about transcendental reality, which speaks about Bhagavan, people say, well, who knows, who has seen, how can we verify? They are suspecting sometimes. So therefore, Sri Jiva Goswami says, it indicates there that genuine affection is missing. And because if genuine affection is missing, then a person will have these doubts and these hesitations in accepting Shastra. And he says, Tatastasu prakrita dravyadi sadharana drishtya dosha visheshanusandhanato na kadachit apravritti syad. And such a person never becomes disinclined towards objects related to Bhagavan by seeing them with a materialistic vision. Now, Param Karuna Prabhu, I am going to ask you another difficult question. The Mahaprasad of Bhagavan, or the waters, the Charanamrit of Bhagavan, the waters that have bathed the feet of Bhagavan, isn't it exactly like ordinary water?
In one sense, yes, but atah Shri Krishna namadi na bhavet
Right. All,
grahya.
yeah. We are going in circles when we again point to Shastra from an external point of view. Isn't it just water?
Yes.
It is just water. So, if you keep it exposed to sunlight or dust, it will appear the same as ordinary water.
Yes.
So then why should we put faith in it? Just because Shastra says?
Yes.
So herein lies the big difference. So Param Karuna Prabhu, I'll give you another example. Now please tell me. I'm giving a worldly example to explain this. For example, let's say there is a boy who deeply loves a girl, but he has not told that girl that he deeply loves her. And both of them study in the same college or in the same school. And one fine day, the girl brings a small bottle of water and she drinks maybe a sip or two from it. And she keeps the remaining bottle on the table and forgets it. The boy knows that the bottle belongs to the girl. He brings it home and he keeps it with him. So, Prabhu, isn't it ordinary water?
Yes. But for him, it is very special.
Why?
Because he has a lot of affection associated with an object to the person whom he has a lot of deep feelings for.
But that water is just like ordinary water. It will get dusty and you expose it to sunlight. So why not just throw it away?
There is affection involved.
So that is what Shraddha is basically. That makes all the difference in the world. So although from an external point of view, the water or the Mahaprasad, it appears to have the same transformations as the objects of the world. But the devotees' faith in these objects is not based merely on logic. The devotees' faith in these objects related to Bhagavan is based on something which is above logic. And that is the Shraddha that a devotee has. Because the devotee Shraddha is not simply based on logic. It is not also only based on Shastra, but it is also based on his previous good samskars of having affection for Bhagavan. And therefore, in the beginning of the Mahaprasad prayers, we say, Swalpa Punya Vatam Rajan Vishwaso Naiva Jayate. And what is the meaning, Prabhu, of this phrase, Swalpa Punya Vatam Rajan Vishwaso Naiva Jayate?
That even if there is little faith, then one develops a lot of...
No. Vishwaso Naiva Jayate. For those who have very little...
the opposite of it.
Yeah. For those who have very little devotional piety from the past, Swalpa Punya, they cannot easily put faith in Mahaprasad, in Govinda, in Nam Brahma, in Vaishnavas. Swalpa Punya Vatam Rajan, those who have very little devotional piety from the past, Vishwaso Naiva Jayate, they can't easily put faith. Why? Because they have their logic and reasoning and comparisons with the objects of the world, and they see the same transformations in those objects related to Bhagavan. So how can I put faith because I am such a rational person? But when there is affection and love, rationale takes a back seat. And that is where genuine Shraddha is present. So some previous samskars of affection are needed in order for an individual to appreciate objects related to Bhagavan. So this is what Sri Jiva Goswami is trying to say here. Furthermore, Sri Jiva Goswami gives a very small example. He says, let's take this verse. Akala mrityu shamanam sarva vyadhi vinashanam sarva dukkhopasamanam haripadodakam smritam. Hari padodakam, waters that have bathed the feet of Hari. What do they do? Akala mrityu shamanam, disrupt the occurrence of untimely death. Sarva vyadhi vinashanam, destroy all diseases. Sarva dukkhopasamanam, and mitigate all suffering. Prabhu, Bhagavan, the water that has washed Bhagavan's feet can do all of this. How easy is it to put faith in such a statement?
In one sense, it is easy, but in another sense, it's very, very hard.
It's very difficult. It's very difficult. But as I told you, you ask a boy who is hopelessly in love with a girl, and he says, this water that she left for me, this is the cure for all my diseases, the end of all my miseries. Isn't it?
Yes.
So, why can't the statement be applicable to waters that have bathed the feet of Bhagavan? So, the only lacking is in the person who is perceiving the water. Because bhakti is a domain of affection and prema. Bhakti is not necessarily a domain of, logic without prema. Bhakti requires one to have a little bit of ruchi, a little bit of affection, a little bit of that spontaneous faith based on affection. And such spontaneous faith is accrued over many lifetimes until one gets to that point. And therefore, Sri Rupa Goswami says in the Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu, very important verse at the end of the first wave of the eastern direction. Swalpa piruchireva syad bhakti tatvavabodhika yuktistu kevala naiva yadasya apratisthata. Swalpa piruchi, even a little amount of ruchi. What is ruchi? Genuine inclination towards Shastra, genuine affection towards Bhagavan. And how does that arise? Sri Jiva Goswami says in the commentary, due to previous good influences. That is Bhakti Tattva Avabodhika. That is the gateway to understanding Bhakti Tattva, the actual nature of Bhakti. Yuktistu kevala naiva. Mere logic devoid of ruchi is not helpful. Why? Yad asya apratisthata. Because such dry logic has no solid foundation to stand upon. So this is what Sri Rupa Goswami has also said in Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu. And this is the distinguishing factor between a person who understands Bhakti Tattva and a person who doesn't understand Bhakti Tattva. For a person who doesn't understand Bhakti Tattva, the waters offered to Bhagavan are just ordinary water. They may not say it on your face. They may not say it in front of a big group of devotees. But inside their minds, the minds are shouting out loudly, this is just ordinary water. Because there is lack of ruchi. There is lack of good influences from previous lives. Nobody has taught them the culture of affection in previous lives. And because of not teaching this culture of affection in previous lives, they have lived this life of rationale and logic and pratyaksha praman, what is directly in front of your eyes is what works. And that is how they have been trained since so many lifetimes. And therefore they are inclined in this manner. So Sri Rupa Goswami says that is not going to work sooner or later, because as long as the mind is not convinced, one cannot become a genuine devotee, no matter how much one pretends in the association of a big group of people. But as long as the mind is not convinced, there is nowhere to go on this particular path. Therefore, Sri Jiva Goswami says that a person who has genuine Shraddha will not only exhibit extreme uh, Sharanagati and not only exhibit affection towards objects of Bhagavan, but will also exhibit disinclination towards sense enjoyment in the world. Because such a devotee knows that sense enjoyment in the world is something which takes you away from Bhagavan. And that is the nature of a genuine sadhu. Because there are many people who say, I have Shastriya Shraddha, I have Shraddha, I have faith in the words of Shastra. But when it comes to following the words of Shastra, when it comes to the negations that Shastra gives, many people are unable to follow those regulations. And then how can we become a sadhu? And then how can we live a life of genuineness? It is not possible. Sri Jiva Goswami quotes a verse from the Vishnu Puran. It's a very wonderful verse. Parapatni paradravya parahimsa suyomatim nakaroti puman bhupa tushyate te nakeshavaha. In the original Vishnu Puran, this is a statement by the sage Aurva to the king Sagar. So the sage Aurva is saying to Sagar, O king, Parapatni, paradravya, parahimsa suyomatim, a person who does not engage his mind in harming others, or who does not hanker for their spouse, their wealth, or their resources, is the one with whom Bhagavan Keshav becomes truly pleased. It's very important to understand that genuine Shraddha means being a genuine sadhu. This is Sharanagati. Sharanagati means a person will not even in their mind think of doing something which will displease Bhagavan. This is Sharanagati, dear devotees. To make excuses that, oh no, it is so difficult to follow, oh no, it is, it is very impractical. It shows an utter lack of Sharanagati, nothing else. Sometimes I have to speak the truth in very simple, plain words, fair and square, as they call it, fair and square truth. That individuals who are not able to prevent their vices are individuals who do not have genuine Shraddha within them. This is the unfortunate truth of the situation. Because as long as we are hankering for these vices in the world, Sri Jiva Goswami especially highlights a few vices. Parapatni, we are hankering for somebody else's spouse. Paradravya, we are hankering for somebody's wealth and resources. Parahimsasu, and we are hankering for causing harm to others. How can we be a genuine sadhu? Param Karuna Prabhu, please tell me, after coming to the society of sadhus, if we are hankering for these things, do we genuinely have Sharanagati within our hearts?
Not a chance.
Not a chance. And then we think that somehow even after we have all these vices in our heart, Bhagavan will still forgive us. And why should Bhagavan forgive a person who is crooked at heart, whose heart is not simple? Because Bhagavan he is a Dina Bandhu. He is very favorable. He is the friend of those who are fallen but who are simple-hearted. But those who are crooked-hearted, for them, why should he become a friend to such people? Therefore, this is the nature of a person who is a genuine sadhu, that they have given up in their minds. They have given up the pursuit of sense enjoyment, especially that sense enjoyment which is definitely prohibited in Shastra and which is definitely going to bring suffering. Definitely. You can take it 100% guaranteed it is going to bring suffering. Dear devotees, a sadhu who has Shraddha does not ever engage in such negative activities. Sri Jiva Goswami says sometimes a devotee has to face unavoidable sense enjoyment. Unavoidable. I'll give you two examples So it is easier to understand. He says, Yadi va shraddhavatopi prarabdhadi vashena vishaya sambandhabhyaso bhavati tathapi tad badhaya vishaya sambandha samayepi dainyatmika bhaktirevochhalita syat. In the case of an individual who has genuine shraddha, if there is some contact with sense enjoyment due to prarabdha karma. So I'll give one example, Param Karuna Prabhu. Let's say there is a devotee who is born in a family where drinking wine is very common. Like he's born in such a family. But now that he has become a devotee, he knows that it is an activity forbidden in Shastra. But one fine day, his family tells him he stays away from his family because he knows that his samskaras and his family samskaras do not match. For most of the time, he stays away. But one fine day, his family invites him to say that, it is today, it is mother's birthday, why don't you come? So he does come to meet the family. And then some member of the family, some mischievous member of the family, tells them, here is some sparkling water or some sparkling juice for you. But when he drinks it, instead of sparkling juice, it turns out to be champagne. Param Karuna Prabhu, this sort of sense enjoyment, was it desired by the devotee or did it come out of prarabdha? How did it happen?
Prarabdha.
It came out of prarabdha. First example. Second example, let's say a devotee is out there speaking the message of Krishna Bhakti to others. He's going street to street, maybe distributing some books or doing some kirtan, and maybe he enters a street which is not such a good street. On that street, the street is, he doesn't know it, but on that street there are some prostitutes. And one prostitute comes up to him from behind and suddenly embraces him. And for a moment, he feels the sense enjoyment, which is caused by the embrace of a person of the opposite gender. Param Karuna Prabhu, this sort of enjoyment has come out of his desire or out of prarabdha karma?
Prarabdha.
Prarabdha karma. So these are some examples of what Sri Jiva Goswami is trying to say here. In such cases, when unavoidable sense enjoyment comes to the devotee will exhibit bhakti in the form of utter sadness and dejection at that particular point of time. And why will the devotee become sad at that point of time, Prabhu? Can you please tell me?
Because it is causing him forcibly to engage in these activities which are forbidden, and he feels just very, very sad and disgusted that his prarabdha is causing him to enjoy these, and he wants to get out of this as quickly as possible and treat this as a reaction to his past karmas and just move forward from that.
But there is some enjoyment that he or she is experiencing in this, isn't it?
He spits on such enjoyment and does not want to think about it again.
Why? Because Shastra says?
Because Shastra says that, and he has so much Shraddha in Shastra, and he knows Shastra is coming from Bhagavan, for whom he has so much ruchi.
All right, but the devotee, just because Shastra says, but the devotee should also, that is Gyan. Gyan is Shastriyam. Vigyan, realization. How about adding a layer of realization to it?
Because these things take him away from his affection for Bhagavan. They both are not aligned with each other. So,
okay, wonderful. Also, these enjoyments are nothing but sources of great misery, isn't it? Therefore, Bhagavan says the same thing. Shri Krishna, says this thing. Tato bhaje tamam pritah shraddhalur dhrida nishchayah jushamanas chatan kaman dukho darkamscha garhayan. Prabhu, kindly read the translation Bhagavan says in the 11th canto.
My devotee should remain happy and worship me with great faith and conviction. Even though he is sometimes engaged in sense enjoyment, My devotee knows that all sense gratification leads to a miserable result, and he sincerely feels repulsed by such activities.
So the main reason for the devotee being repulsed and regretting this is highlighted in the red. And it is that all sense gratification leads to a miserable result, and the devotee is convinced by it. And I have to say this today, it is an unfortunate situation in many parts of the world that many individuals are not convinced by this. They are not convinced by this. As I said, I have to say it fair and square. Many individuals are not convinced. Even in the devotee society, many individuals are not convinced that sense gratification leads to a miserable result. And because of not being convinced about this, we cannot say in which lifetime they will become convinced. It is very difficult because Shri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says in the Madhurya Kadambini, Varuni diggatam vastu vrajan aindrim kim apnuyat. An object lost in the west cannot be found in the east. Similarly, a devotee lost in the waves of sense gratification cannot be found on the path of bhakti so easily. And it is very important because nowadays, in the name of practicality, O Prabhu, the world has changed. O Prabhu, be practical. And O Prabhu, it is Yukta Vairagya. There are many instances of unbridled sense enjoyment going on without any hesitation and without taking into consideration that such sense gratification leads to a miserable result. And a very classic example of this is the modern tendency of people to post photographs in various poses and decorated clothes and ornaments on social media uh, uh, on every festival, on every occasion, just to show that they are having a good time. And it is not a recommended activity in Bhakti Shastras, but people are doing it because the entire world does it. And it is nothing but a form of sense enjoyment which is fueled by modern day social media. But people still do it without realizing that all sense gratification leads to a miserable result. Now the devotee should have conviction. And once a devotee has conviction, the devotee will not voluntarily get into sense enjoyment. Every enjoyment is suffering, says the great sage Maharshi Patanjali in the Yoga Sutra. Scientific understanding of how every enjoyment is actually suffering. In the Yoga Sutra, second chapter, Sutra number 15, Patanjali Muni says, Parinam tap samskara dukkhair gunavritti virodhacha dukkham eva sarvam vivekinaha. He says due to four factors. What are the four factors? Parinam dukkha, tap dukkha, samskara dukkha, and gunavritti virodha. Due to these four factors, everything in the world is suffering for the wise yogi. Now I will explain briefly what are these four factors. And dear devotees, please hear carefully. When we are enjoying any sense gratification, the suffering has already begun. Patanjali Muni explains. First is called Parinam Dukkha, the misery of transformation. For example, a person, Param Karuna Prabhu, I am giving an example. Please answer my question. A person, a man and a woman who are immensely attracted to each other, get married to each other, they are madly in love with each other. Is it happiness or distress?
At that moment, it is happiness.
2 years later, the woman gets cancer and she loses all her hair. Is it happiness or distress?
Distress.
Distress. So in case of some happiness, it will transform into misery in some amount of time. And if it is not cancer or it is not some deadly disease, you will often see married people saying to each other, you have changed. Of course, This is also parinam dukkha, the misery of transformation. This is the first dukkha that occurs in every sense gratification. Second is tapa dukkha, the misery of afflictions. While a person is enjoying some sense gratification, at that particular point of time, as they are enjoying some sense gratification, if they happen to see somebody else who is enjoying to a much greater degree, or if they happen to realize that this sense gratification is going to get over soon, then they start feeling miserable even while they are enjoying. This is called tapa dukkha. I give a very simple example. For example, a lady uh, who is married to Mr. World may feel tapa dukkha on seeing another lady who is married to Mr. Universe. So in this way, tapa dukkha can affect any one of us. Tapa dukkha is to become unhappy or to become afflicted even at the moment of enjoyment. And if none of these are there, neither parinam is there nor tap is there, you got some enjoyment, pure enjoyment, which was so nice that it did not result in any misery or something like that immediately. The third is samskara dukkha, the misery of impressions. Every enjoyment leaves a positive impression on your heart. And once the positive impression is there, oh my goodness, it was such nice enjoyment. The heart aches for having that same enjoyment again. But can the same enjoyment be available again and again infinitely in this world, Prabhu? Please tell me.
No, not
No.
at all.
So when the enjoyment will not be available in the future, we will experience the third type of dukkha, samskar dukkha. Misery created due to our own previous positive impressions when we were enjoying. This is called samskara dukkha. And fourth is gunavritti virodha. The three modes of nature are contradictory to each other. Mode of goodness is always mixed with passion and ignorance. So all happiness that is found here is mixed with some passion and ignorance. So you will never find pure variety of happiness here. Due to these factors, everything in this world is suffering for the wise yogi. Shri Vyasadeva has commented on the Yoga Sutras, and in his commentary to Yoga Sutra, 3rd chapter, 18th Sutra, he cites a discussion between two sages named Jaigi Shavya and Avatya. And Jaigi Shavya was someone who, through his yoga siddhi, through his yogic powers, he remembered his past lives for the last 10 lifetimes of Brahma that he was in the material world. He remembered all those lives for the past 10 lifetimes of Brahma. So he saw 10 Brahmas come and die, but Jaigi Shavya still remained in the world and he went through various species. But when he finally became a yogi and he had the name Jaigi Shavya, he remembered all those lives that he had spent in the material world in the 10 lifetimes of Brahma. Another great sage, Avatya, approached him and asked him, "Yet you have seen all species, 84 lakh species, you have been an insect in some species, a bird in some species, a devata, a god in some species, you have been a Gandharva in some species, a human in some species. Please tell me, while looking at all the species you went through in the last 10 lifetimes of Brahma, if you calculate the happiness and the suffering, which one turns out to be greater?" So Muni Jaigi Shavya, he looks at Muni Avatya and says, "You are correct when you say that I went through all these species of insects, animals, serpents, gods, humans, etc. But when I look at all these species that I spent in the last 10 lifetimes of Brahma, I can only see misery and suffering. I do not see any happiness that I attained." Param Karuna Prabhu, is he speaking the truth?
I think so, very much.
Of course, he is speaking the truth. I could not see any happiness. Today I realized there was no happiness in those species. I'll ask you a simple question, Param Karuna Prabhu. Put yourself in the place of Jaigi Shavya and try to visualize the life of a serpent or an insect. Tell me which happiness is worth having in that life.
Not much at all.
Not much at all. But Prabhu, you and me have spent many lifetimes like that. We may not remember them. Was there any happiness in such lifetimes?
No.
No. So Jaigi Shavya says, actually there was zero happiness in all those lifetimes. So the devotee, not only from Shastra, from theory, does he know that material enjoyment leads to suffering, but the devotee also has practical conviction based on the realizations of the sages, the realizations of the acharyas, that all enjoyment here is actually suffering. And this simple fact, which Sri Patanjali Muni explained in the Yoga Sutra in such a detailed way, is given by Bhagavan Shri Krishna in a very simple way. ये हि संस्पर्शजा भोगा दुःखयोनय एव ते आद्यन्तवन्तः कौन्तेय न तेषु रमते बुध. Kindly read the translation, Prabhu.
An intelligent person does not take part in the sources of misery, which are due to contact with the material senses. O son of Kunti, such pleasures have a beginning and an end, and so the wise man does not delight in them.
So in the previous slide, when I showed Patanjali Muni, he said Vivekina, wise person. Here Shri Krishna is saying Buddha, wise person. He is saying the same, both of them are saying the same thing, that what we see as pleasure is actually nothing but a camouflaged version of misery. The misery will take birth from the same source that you are attributing the pleasure to. Misery takes birth from that same source. This, dear devotees, is Shraddha. To have faith in the statements of Shastra, and not only faith, realized faith. And this realized faith comes to a person who has those positive impressions from various lifetimes, who is convinced, who has the devotional piety, and who has that little bit of affection that yes, I do not need much of a logical reasoning to believe in Bhagavan. My affection which I am carrying from previous lifetimes is my biggest praman. And dear devotees, in previous sessions we discussed from Bhagavan Naam Kaumudi, why Bhagavan's Naam is not, glories of Bhagavan's Naam is not arthavad, is not exaggeration. And Bhagavan Naam Kaumudi is good for a person who may have doubts, because they may not have those previous samskars of affection. But Bhagavan Naam Kaumudi is not a must for somebody who already has that affection from previous lives. A person who has affection from previous lifetimes, that person doesn't need to go through the entire logical reasoning of Bhagavan Naam Kaumudi. Because for them, the final purpose of reading Bhagavan Naam Kaumudi is already achieved. That is affection and implicit Shraddha in statements glorifying Harinam. So that is very simple. Bhagavan Naam Kaumudi, Param Karuna Prabhu, Bhagavan Naam Kaumudi is for convincing whom?
For those who don't have that conviction.
Of course, it is for convincing those people. But if a person has affection, just like I said, a boy falls madly in love with a girl and the girl falls madly in love with a boy. For the boy, the name of the girl is an ordinary name or a very special name. How does he treat that name?
Very special.
Very special. You know, the boys and girls, they get tattoos of each other's names made on their body. Isn't one of the 64 limbs of bhakti to inscribe the names of Bhagwan on your body?
Yes.
It works in the very similar way. It works on the same principle. That's what it is to have Shraddha. That is what is the genuine meaning of having Shraddha. It's not just theoretical faith and disciplined faith in the statements of Shastra. It is faith based on affection earned from previous lifetimes of association with sadhus who had affection. That is what Shraddha is, actually. And even if we did not have a association in previous lives, in this life we can have association with such sadhu, and we can then try to have that level of Shraddha within us. So that is how these things work. Therefore, such a person will very easily avoid these negative things. Parapatni, paradravya, parahimsa suyomatim, na karoti puman bhupat tushyate tena keshava. Forget about, you know, uh, these negatives. These negatives they'll absolutely avoid, because if there is anything which is coming in the way of my genuine affection for Bhagavan, why should I ever get into such a thing? That is Shraddha. Because many people think Shraddha means to, have a military discipline towards, just believe what Shastra says. Believe, why should I believe? There has to be a reason for me to believe. And that reason is based on ruchi. Ruchi is that taste acquired from previous lifetimes. So that is very important. Now, for those who don't have such Shraddha, Bhagavan says in the Gita, and Sri Jiva Goswami quotes, Na buddhi bhedam janayed ajnanam karma sanginam. An intelligent person should not disrupt the intelligence of ignorant men attached to fruitive karma. So if somebody doesn't have that Shraddha, if somebody doesn't have that implicit faith, then you can try to, uh, you can try to instruct them once, but if you see that they don't have that faith, then don't try to disrupt their intelligence. Once or twice you may try, but if they're still not listening, don't try to force them more and more. And Sri Jiva Goswami therefore says, you will never know until you try once. He says, Yadyapi adhikaritayam shraddhaiva hetu, although Shastra Shraddha is the cause of eligibility, such Shraddha is not possible in ignorant people who are unaware of Shastra. But there is no fault in somehow assuming that such ignorant people must have bhakti adhikar due to some past impression. If you are meeting a person for the first time, you have to assume that this person may be having some past piety. Therefore, let me instruct him. Let me try to instruct him. There is no fault in instructing a person like this by assuming that this person may be having past devotional piety. Because if you don't do that, then all people who preach to ignorant people will become accused of the fault of the ninth nam aparadh. This is what Sri Jiva Goswami says. So, dear devotees, in very simple words, the ninth nam aparadh is about repeatedly instructing people who have no Shraddha in Shastra. Repeatedly. And it is not only instructing them about Harinam, instructing them about any limb of bhakti will lead to this aparadh. Any limb of bhakti, because they don't have that Shraddha, and we are repeatedly forcing them to have Shraddha, and Shraddha cannot be forced. Shraddha comes as a result of genuine affection. And when somebody doesn't have that, you cannot force a person to have that. Shraddha is not also just theoretical faith in Shastra, but living a life of sixfold Sharanagati, also most importantly giving up vices and needless sense enjoyment and taking up the behavior of a genuine sadhu. That is what Shraddha is in practical day-to-day life. That is how Shraddha is manifested. And those who don't have such Shraddha should ideally not be instructed about Harinam or in general about Bhakti. However, there is no harm in assuming that a newcomer has previous impressions of Shraddha and Bhakti and thus giving them favorable instructions. But when you see that they are faithless, then repeated instructions to the faithless must be avoided. This is the ninth Namaprad, dear devotees. With this, we have understood the scope and the entire meaning of the ninth Namaprad. And at this point of time, dear devotees, I'll pause my speech. Thank you very much. Yadatra skalitam kinchid vidvam saha purayantu tat. Yadatra saushtavam kinchit tad guroreva mena. Yadatra skalitam kinchit. If there's any mistake in what I said, vidvam saha, you are learned devotees, purayantu tat. Please correct any mistakes. But yadatra saushtavam kinchit, if there's anything nice, tad guroreva. It belongs to my gurujanas. Me nahi. It doesn't belong to me. Thank you very much. Thank you, Param Karuna Prabhu, for kindly being the host today. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity to serve you and Dhameshwar Mahaprabhu Prabhu. And thank you for such a surgical analysis. Absolutely wonderful, Prabhuji. This is what I love, how you go into the Shastra and don't really leave any scope for doubts, or very, very clear cut. And as you said, fair and square as well, direct, no mincing words, no beating around the bush, no sugarcoating. So I really appreciate, and I'm very, very grateful to you that you share this, such deep things you unearth and bring it to us on a silver plate for us to just consume. Thank you so much.
I'm very happy. I was that my own Gurujanas taught me to speak the truth sometimes in a way that is direct, because today's world is a world where unpalatable truths are never spoken. Sometimes they need to be spoken, but nowadays they are never spoken. Today is the world of artificial intelligence, and the most important one being Chat GPT. And if you tell the most negative things to it, it will still reply with a positive tone. Oh, I'm very sorry to hear that. Here are 5 things that can comfort you. So that's how modern day conversations work out. But it's better to have a good reality check so that we can come out of our comfort bubble and try to do what is needed. So thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhuji. So we will transition to question answers. Just a quick reminder of the general rules of thumb or guidelines. Please raise your hands, and we'll go in a round robin manner, and we'll come back for second questions. If you have any quick clarifying question, follow on, you can continue. No, this whole series is very informal. Prabhuji is doing us a great favor by keeping it very informal, institution and personality neutral. So please don't ask any loaded questions in that way. I think those are the two main things. And if there are any detailed questions that are requiring any deep analysis about a verse or something, we can please use the WhatsApp Q&A group for that. There is an email address, Siksastakam.hpd, I feel that's the one, at gmail.com. You can send an email there to get added to the, Prabhuji is showing it on the screen.
Yeah, if somebody wants to get added to the group, they can send an email to this address. Please make sure you include your WhatsApp number with country code, because we cannot assume which country your phone number belongs to. So please send it with your country code.
And also just one thing there, when you add the country, when you supply the country code, please put a dash after it to separate out the country code from the number, because the way in which we add contacts into WhatsApp, it first asks the country code, and sometimes there is a confusion as to how much. Sometimes a country code is 2 digits or 3 digits, or there's so there's some confusion that occurs. So please clearly, or just mention as well the name of your country, in addition to providing the number and country code. And please ask questions relevant to today's session and to the series. But in general, questions about Shastra and all are not encouraged, which are not related to the series.
Let's begin.
Yes, Prabhuji. So the first question is from Ramai Manohar Das, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Danvat Pranam.
Pranam.
Thank you so much for this. Thank you so much for this enlightening lecture. It totally changed the idea of what Shraddha actually is. So, Prabhuji, previously I have heard from you that a devotee begins his journey. There are 2 different types, like there is Vichar Pradhan and Ruchi Pradhan. But herein, it seems like you have narrowed it down further to like just Ruchi Pradhan. And so, where is the scope for Vichar Pradhan in this section?
So I'll make the question easier for everyone to understand. In the Sandarbhas, Sri Jiva Goswami has said that devotees have two inclinations. One is Ruchi Pradhan, which is primarily driven by Ruchi, primarily driven by spontaneous taste, and Vichar Pradhan, primarily driven by an analytical mindset. So there are two types of devotees specified in the Sandarbhas. Sri Rupa Goswami has said Swalpapi Ruchir, a little Ruchi is needed. He did not say that Ruchi Pradhan. You have to become Pradhan in Ruchi in the beginning. You may become Vichar Pradhan, but little Ruchi is needed even for the Vichar Pradhan devotee. So you may be inclined to Vichar, you may be inclined to logical analysis of Shastra. And then such devotees become attracted to literature such as Bhagavan Nam Kaumudi. And because they like analysis of Harinam in such ways. But the Ruchi Pradhan, for him, it is the name of my beloved Bhagavan. So why do I need to go into a logical analysis of whether it is true or not? I don't need a book to tell me that the name of Krishna is and its glories are true. I know it because that is what my previous samskars are telling me. So that is, they have Ruchi already. The Vichar Pradhan ones are also interested in logically. They have Ruchi, but they are also interested in studying the logical, rational aspects of bhakti. So in the beginning, you need to have little Ruchi. It doesn't say that you need to be Ruchi Pradhan in the beginning. So I hope that answers your query.
Yes, Swami. So basically, it's like to what degree we have it, right?
Yeah. What is the prominent driving
Like,
force? What is the prominent driving force after you get initiated from a guru and after you begin your bhajan kriya? That determines whether you are Ruchi Pradhan or Vichar Pradhan. Right?
but initially, even some bit of Ruchi is required.
For all people, little bit of Ruchi is required. Only Vichar will not do in the beginning. Right? Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Prabhuji, I had a similar question, so maybe this is the right time to ask since it's in the same chain of thought.
Sure.
Thank you to Ramai Manohar Prabhu for asking this. I had the question that in the Adav Shraddha verse by Sri Rupa Goswami, 1.4.15.16 in Sri Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, it starts with Shraddha and then Ruchi. And as I understand, it's a deeper, much advanced level of Ruchi. It comes in the fifth stage, the sixth stage. So there is first Shraddha and then Ruchi, but you kind of mentioned that Shraddha also comes from that initial Ruchi.
Yeah.
So I had that question as well. And of course, there is the Sadhu Sangha, as Sri Jiva Goswami and Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explain in the commentary, that there is an initial Sadhu Sangha and then there is later Sadhu Sangha. So is that Ruchi developed through Sadhu Sangha, or is there Ruchi in Sadhu Sangha, or where does that Ruchi develop from? And you mentioned about past lives or past samskaras. Could you please unpack a little bit all of this?
Yeah. So let's open Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu directly. And let's just see in the words of the previous acharyas, because I quoted that verse, Swalpapi ruchireva syad bhakti tatvava bodhika. And I will share that verse and I'll share my screen. And we can have a look at the direct commentary of Sri Jiva Goswami. Here is the verse which I had quoted. Swalpapi ruchir eva syat bhakti tattva avabodhika yuktistu kevalanaiva yadasya apratishthata. This is the verse that I quoted. This is 1:145, where he says a little bit of ruchi is what gives knowledge of genuine bhakti tattva, entrance into genuine bhakti tattva. Yuktistu kevalane, mere logic is not going to work here because this is a domain of affection. And apratishthata, logic anyways in the material world has no stable basis. In the commentary, Jiva Goswami starts defining ruchi. You can say ruchi. Ruchir atra. What does ruchi mean here? He says bhakti tattva pratipadaka shabdeshu Shrimad Bhagavatadishu Prachina Samskarena Uttamatva Jnanam. Prachina Samskarena. Now, what is the meaning, Param Karuna Prabhu, of Prachina Samskar?
Sorry, what's your question, Prabhuji?
What is the meaning of Prachina Samskar?
Previous life samskar.
Yeah, so due to previous impressions, Uttamatva Jnanam, to have this very implicit knowledge that this is the best, this is what I love. In what? In Srimad Bhagavatam, in the Shastras, which give Bhakti Tattva, to have that deep attachment in those Shastras. Because ultimately you have that attachment, deep attachment in the Shastras due to Prachin Samskar. And as you said, Prachin Samskar is previous impressions. But which means that previously you have had some attachment towards Bhagavan. And that is why the Srimad Bhagavatam says, Bhaktya Sanjataya Bhaktya. You might have heard that verse, Bhaktya Sanjataya Bhaktya.
Yes.
It is in the Srimad Bhagavatam, which says that Bhakti gives rise to Bhakti. It is previous Bhakti which gives rise to Bhakti in this life. It is 11.331. Bhaktya Sanjataya Bhaktya. So by Bhakti, which gives rise to another Bhakti. So this is what is happening. So the initial ruchi is something which has come very clearly in the words of Sri Jiva Goswami from Prachin Samskar. And you have very clearly told me what is Prachin Samskar. And now when you progress on the path of bhakti, and then due to your repeated sadhan, then that ruchi which is defined in that Ādau Shraddha Tatah Sadhu Sangha, that is the nourished, refined, deep attachment to your sadhan and bhajan, which is due to the practice which is done in this lifetime. So I hope that clarifies the difference between the term ruchi as mentioned initially and the ruchi which develops later. Right?
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, we'll go to the next question by Tanvi Manjari Mataji.
Hare Krishna, my pranams. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for the wonderful katha. So my question is that, like you mentioned, the prasad of Bhagavan, we should have Shraddha, or we should have, like you gave the analogy of the hopeless boy in love. So doesn't prasad have intrinsic good qualities? Like, is it totally subjective?
Prasad is by default, prasad has all the good qualities, it is chinmay. But Sri Jiva Goswami says in the Sandarbha, you will see some material influences coming upon it. Isn't it? There is a verse in Paryushitam Shushkam Nitam Va Duradeshatah. There is a verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita. I'll point out this verse, which specifies that even prashadam, sometimes you will see those external material influences acting upon it. Here is Madhya Lila 6.225. Shushkam Puryushitam Vapi Nitam Vadura Deshatah Prapti Matrena Bhoktavyam Natra Kala Vicharana. So please read the translation.
Yes. The Bhattacharya said, one should eat the Mahaprasadam of the Lord immediately upon receiving it, even though it is dried up, stale, or brought from a distant country. One should consider neither time nor place.
So dried up, stale, all these are specifying which characteristics, spiritual or material?
Material.
So sometimes Sri Jiva Goswami says you will see those influences on prasad. Now, what does it mean for the devotee? Does the devotee see the material influences on the prasad, or does the devotee still see prasad as something completely transcendental? How does the devotee see it?
Sees it as his beloved's transcendental.
But why? Because logic doesn't go in favor of seeing it as completely transcendental. Why is it transcendental?
Due to his love for the Bhagavan.
So that is the reason. I hope you are able to understand. That is the reason. Whatever belongs to my beloved is transcendental for me. It is beyond the world for me. That is the actual reason. So logically, it is showing the same transformations as uh, you know other food which is not prasad. So, but from the point of view of bhakti, that is what is Shraddha. Do you have faith that prasad has come from Bhagavan, that Jagannath prasad actually has been tasted by Bhagavan? So that is the main consideration here. All right, I hope that satisfies the query.
Yes, but just a follow up on this, that now the prasad, the devotee eats the prasad, of course his ruchi will be increased more. But if the non-devotee eat the prasad, of course he must have some sattvic influence on him also, right?
Yeah, for a devotee who consumes the prasad of Jagannath, now let's just think of this like this. Śrī-Caitanya Mahaprabhu used to look upon Jagannath as his beloved Shyam Sundar. And Śrī-Caitanya Mahaprabhu was in the mood of Sri Radha. So, Sri Radha receiving the remnants of Sri Krishna, with what mood will Sri Radha consume the remnants of Sri Krishna? That is a very different mood altogether. And especially Jagannath is many times considered as Sri Krishna staying in Dwaraka. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to stay in Gambhira, which is in separation from Jagannath. So, if Sri Radha receives some remnant of food from Sri Krishna when he is staying at Dwaraka, separated for so many years, how will Sri Radha feel? How will she accept that prasad? That bhavana, that mood is very important when a devotee accepts prasad. And when a non-devotee accepts prasad, if they do not have an atheistic viewpoint, if they have a general pious viewpoint, then they will get some devotional sukriti. And devotional sukriti collected over many lifetimes is what finally gives actual sadhu sangha, and what finally gives rise to that powerful bhakti which will finally cause one to become a servant of Shri Krishna eternally in the spiritual world. I hope that makes sense.
Yes. Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
Next we have Yadupati Hari Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, Dhanarpanam. Thank you so much for wonderful class. Prabhuji, so I have this doubt on Ashraddha that you have talked. So, so my doubt is, in the beginning, if the devotee has that ruchi, that faith, but in the due course of time after practicing bhakti, due to some reasons, in the beginning he was not applying any logic. He has faith, but suddenly now he starts applying logic, and he starts disputing the same thing which previously he didn't get any doubt. And due to this way, he is developing Ashraddha and getting away from Bhagavan. So you have something to tell on this, Prabhu. So how to understand this?
In the beginning, he had some. In the beginning, he had some some direct faith in Mahaprasad or anything related to Bhagwan, but gradually they have started losing their faith. So Sri Jiva Goswami has covered this in the Sandarbhas, that there are some aparadhas that cause a person to lose taste and faith, and specifically he takes up 5 of them in the Bhakti Sandarbha. And these 5 of them are Kautilya, etc. These were covered. I had given a specific talk on these 5. It was called Before a Fall. So if you want to see the reasons for a devotee to lose faith on the path of bhakti, those reasons are specified by Sri Jiva Goswami. And I will show you the name of the talk which you can refer to. And this talk is this one, Before a Fall. So you can see this particular talk. And in this particular talk, I have discussed in some detail about the factors which cause devotees to lose that initial taste. So I hope that answers your query. Param Karuṇā. Yeah.
Yeah. Next, we'll go to Kṛpā Prabhu.
Dandavad Hari Pārṣada Prabhu, Vaisnavas, Vaisnavis, happy Tiruvak Mahotsav of Srila Prabhupada.
Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Today's analysis is more focused on someone who is not an initiated devotee or a newcomer, but how to apply this knowledge if someone has been a devotee, he has a strict knowledge, he has practiced in a nice way, but due to some problem with the guru, leader, institution, he has moved away from the spiritual process. How far can we go to trying to help him without falling in this apparat, in this offense?
Wonderful. So the question is, the entire explanation for today's talk applies very well to a person who's still within the process. But how about somebody who has left the process and gone away due to a negative experience? The best way to deal with individuals who have gone away due to a negative experience is to follow the path which is given in the Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna says the best thing is for you to remember me spontaneously. But if you can't do that, follow the rules and regulations of Vaidhi Bhakti. But if you can't do that, at least do some work for me. But if you can't do that, at least aim for attaining some knowledge or some higher principles in life. You see, he gives that ladder in the Bhagavad Gita, and it's very clear in the Gita that Bhagavan is is specifying that not everyone can follow that highest level of realization. Initially, a person out of enthusiasm and the collective interest pumped into him by the sadhus that he meets may start following on a level which they were not meant for. But then that initial enthusiasm which was pumped into them, the initial euphoria, after it fades away, then a person is left with their de facto personality that they have acquired from previous lifetimes. Now, this is the time when their actual nature comes out. And when that comes out, if due to some unfortunate experiences, if they go away, then the best thing would be to ask them honestly, which level of bhakti can you follow while being favorable towards Bhagavan? That's what level can you follow? And then they may say, well, the best thing I can do is, well, I can remain a vegetarian in this life and give a donation from time to time. Like that's what some people may say. That's all right. So please continue to do that, and please continue to have friendship with me. I'm very happy to have you as a friend. And although you had a negative experience and you went away due to some individuals, but please know that I support your decision, because this is a decision which Krishna approves in the Bhagavad Gita. And that if you're unable to do this, then do this. If you're unable to do this, then do this. So this is your natural position in which you would love to be situated. And I very much appreciate that. So let's keep our friendship. And then gradually, this person may not change for their entire lifetime. They may remain on that level. But this is what Bhagavan has said in the Srimad Bhagavatam also about such people. This is 11th canto, where Bhagavan says the very important praman. He says, Sve sve adhikare ya nishtha sa gunah parikirtitah. And it is firmly declared that steady adherence of transcendentalists to their respective spiritual position constitute real piety. And sin occurs when a transcendentalist neglects his prescribed duty. So, to be comfortably situated in one's respective position is actual piety for a particular person. This is what is going to work for him. And in fact, what we want to do is keep them in a state of euphoria and in the state artificially in a higher state until they die. But that's not going to work. Why is it not going to work? Because you can't ripen a mango by beating it. A mango has to ripen after it stays connected to the tree for some time. And that is how bhakti is going to work for everyone. And that is how it is going to work for them. So I hope that answers your query. And also to specify the verses in Bhagavad Gita. So Shri Krishna says, this is 12th chapter, verse number 8 onwards. Mayi eva mana adhatsva, mayi buddhim niveshaya, nivasishyasi eva ata urdhvam na samshaya. The best thing is just fix your mind upon me, engage your intelligence. This is basically the platform of bhava and prema. That is when this happens. And if you're not able to do that, atha chittam samadhatum na shaknosi mai sthiram abhyasa yogena. And if you can't do that, follow sadhan bhakti. If you cannot fix, then follow sadhan bhakti principles. And then if you can't do that, then come down abhyase piyama. If you can't practice, then just try to do some karma yoga. Work for me. And if you can't do that, and gradually then try to work in a normal way in the world outside, but try to give up attachment to the results. In this way, try to be self-situated. So in this way, Bhagavan gives many levels of transcendence for people to be situated in their natural zone of existence in spiritual life. So I hope that answers your query.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you.
Dhanyavad.
Thank you, Prabhuji. There are few questions on the chat. So one question is kind of related to what Kriparam Prabhu asked. So he said, this is from Shyam Mukund Prabhu. Says, Haribol Prabhuji, what about our near and dear ones, our family members? To them also only once or twice one have to instruct how to benefit them.
Yeah, so we have special affection for our near and dear ones, our family members, and we feel a little dejected when they don't accept the process or when they don't understand the importance of bhakti yoga, the importance of shastra praman. And we try to convince them once or twice, but if the moment we see negativity in them towards shastra, towards bhagavan, or towards the process, we should stop. Basically, that is when we should stop. Because they may be on their way to becoming favorable in a few lifetimes, and we are driving them further away. So why are we doing a disservice to them? We should not do that disservice. Because what happens sometimes, devotees, in order to show that they are devotees and the family members who are not devotees are lesser mortals, what they do is they just try to tease the family members by by frequently arguing with them. This makes the family members so repulsed against the practice of bhakti yoga that they never want to take up such a practice. And imagine somebody dying with those impressions. In the next life, they will carry those negative impressions regarding bhakti yoga with them, and it will become even more difficult for them to come to the path. So, Param Karuna Prabhu, did we render a service to the family member or a disservice to the family member? What did we do?
Yeah, disservice.
Shri Rishabdev says, Gurur na sasyat, svajano na sasyat. One should not become a relative if one cannot deliver one's dependents. Deliver means not in this life, if one cannot make them favorable. That is what Srila Sridhar Swami says in the commentary. One cannot give them favorable instructions. Then one should not become a relative. So if we have become a relative to them, because that verse is very important. Guru na sasyat, svajano na sasyat, pita na sasyat, janani na sasyat, daivam na tatsyan, na patischa sasyat, namo chayed yah samupetam mrityum. That is 5.5.18 of Srimad Bhagavatam. And I will point out that commentary. It's a very important commentary where Sri Rishabdev is saying, Swajano na sasyat. One should not become a relative if na mochayed yah samupetam mrityum, if one cannot rescue. So he says, tato, what is the meaning? Bhakti marga upadeshena yo na moched. The meaning is not that you actually deliver them. The meaning is that you give them bhakti marga upadesh. Okay, that you give them favorable instructions on the path of bhakti. Sa guruvadir na bhavati. That person should not become a guru. If you can't give them favorable waves, favorable instructions on the path of bhakti, don't become a guru, parent, mother, father, relative, etc. That is the meaning of the verse. Sometimes devotees take the verse very literally. if you, if you can't if you can't deliver everybody connected to you back to Godhead in that single life, then you should not become a father. Well, Shri Rishabdev's own son Bharat Maharaj did not go back to Godhead in that very life. Please note, the person who gave that instruction, his own son did not go back to Godhead in that very life. Bharat Maharaj had to stay back for 2 more lives. So, does it mean that Shri Rishabdev did not follow his own instruction? Obviously not. Therefore, Srila Sridhar Swami's commentary is so beautiful in understanding the essential meaning of the Srimad Bhagavatam, that you should give all of them favorable instructions. That is your duty as a relative and a family member. So that is how it is to be understood. All right, I hope that explains. Make them favorable. Make them, whatever you do, make them favorable. Don't make them unfavorable. All right, because anukulyena krishnanushilanam is the most important condition of uttama bhakti. Anyabhilashita shunyam is not the most important condition. Jnana karmadi anavritam is not the most important condition. Anukulyena krishnanushilanam is the mukhya lakshan, is the swarup lakshan of bhakti. So that Swarup Lakshan we should maintain in our family members. They may let them remain favorable as far as possible. So that is the answer.
Wonderful, Prabhuji. Then there are 2 queries by Bhakti Praveena Mataji. She presented it in a very, very respectful way. So I really appreciate that. So first question is, what should one do when one has committed a thing that is very displeasing to Bhagavan? A first impulse may be to drown oneself in the Yamuna, but maybe there are more practical ways to re-establish one's relationship with Bhagavan.
Well, if one has done something which is very displeasing to Bhagavan, well, there should be a specific statement in Shastra where Bhagavan says that this is very displeasing to me. In general, all negative things are displeasing to Bhagavan. But if there is some mahapatak or very great sinful activity which is very displeasing and it is mentioned in Shastra, still the Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu says that if something has happened accidentally, not by volition, then there is no prayaschit or atonement needed. And if something has happened voluntarily, still there are remedies within the ambit of bhakti. Now it depends on case to case what is the specific negative act committed and what is the devotional solution for that. And so in general, there are devotional solutions for every negative act committed. And to drown in the Yamuna and all these things that will not help one attain Bhagwan, because Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had said to his followers, it was Raghunath Das Goswami or somebody, but you will not attain Bhagwan by, if I could attain Bhagwan by giving up my body, I would have given it up right now. So that is, there are statements like that in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So there is suicide or such things are terribly condemned in Shastra. One should never even mentally think of such things. These things are never to be done by devotees, because the devotee always has a solution, no matter what the problem is. So that is the answer to the query.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Her next question is, Bhakti develops over many lifetimes. Should we aim to attain prema in this lifetime or in this very moment? Or should we desire prema itself without considering the time factor?
We should hanker for prema and then leave it to Bhagavan. Because frankly speaking, these things are not within our hands. What is within our hands is the chase. The attainment is not within our hands. So we can chase prema, we can hanker for prema, we can aspire for prema, we can have an indirect experience of some of the aspects of prema by hearing from devotees who already have prema. Those things are, and we are going in the proper direction. When we are doing that, we are going in the proper direction. What do we worry about when it comes to taking a new birth? What is it that we worry about when it comes to taking a new birth? The first thing is that it will come with a whole set of miseries, because dying is a misery, taking birth again is a misery, growing up is a misery, living in ignorance for so many years is a misery. So all those miseries are associated with a new birth. At the same time, when you have aimed for prema and when you become surrendered enough to the point where you are okay with taking another birth, and that level of maturity, when it is attained, it very easily attracts Bhagavan's mercy, and Bhagavan will definitely become merciful towards such a person. But leave the final decision in Bhagavan's hands without worrying about, without worrying about births. So many millions and infinite births we spent already in the material world, we don't remember any of them. And we are now worried about one more birth. We are worried about a future pain. That is what we are worried about in actuality. We are worried about a future pain that this may occur. So our focus, instead of being on the future pain, it is a good thing to prevent future pain. And Yoga Shastra says that one should try to avoid pain which comes in the future, because pain which has already come in the past is gone. So you can't do anything about it. Pain which you are receiving right now will anyways be exhausted. So heyam dukkham anagatam. So that is what Patanjali says in the Yoga Sutra, that distress should be counteracted which is about to come in the future. But the devotee's consideration is much above that. The devotee is not so much worried about a rebirth as much as the devotee is worried about losing track of prema. So have faith on the path that Bhagavan will keep you on the path of prema, and that Bhagavan will not lead you astray from the path. But a very specific mindset is needed for this. A very dedicated mindset is needed for this. It cannot come with people who are drowning in sense enjoyment. And I specified this today. It is a very serious subject matter. People who are drowning in sense enjoyment cannot have access to that, because to have prema for Bhagavan is not something which we will acquire so cheaply, while without giving up our existing zone of comfort and pleasures. So I often say you will have to give everything up. You will have to put everything on the table in order to have a chance. You'll have to put everything on the table in order to have a chance to have prema. Everything, and by everything I mean everything. You may also have to give up your reputation in the society in order to have a chance at prema. And I mean it. And so if you are willing to give that sarva dharman, then there is a good possibility. Bhagavan will give the opportunity to give up everything. And when Bhagavan gives the opportunity, one should be knowledgeable enough to take up those opportunities. So that is what I can say at this point of time.
Wonderful, Prabhuji. very profound. Thank you, Prabhuji. There's another question on the chat, Prabhuji. I'll read it out. This is from Pranav Patil Prabhu. It says, if sadhak is genuine in trying his best to be on the path of Shastra, but somehow or the other, due to weakness of heart, he is unable to follow and engage in sense gratification. So how is his Shraddha? As from today's class, I can see that if a devotee has genuine Shraddha, he or she will never engage in activities which displeases Bhagavan.
Of course, if a devotee has genuine Shraddha, why will he act in such a way? Param Karuṇā Prabhu, you have been in one of the best universities in India because you had Shraddha, you had implicit faith in the greatness of that university. You are from the Indian Institute of Technology. And once you enrolled in that institution of learning, did you ever have a thought of working against the interests of that institution?
No.
No, never. Because you had dedicated yourself. So it definitely shows that there is something lacking on the part of the sadhaka and that they have not taken up the message of Shastra very seriously. Because in today's talk, I did not simply say follow the rules because Shastra says so. I also specified from Patanjali Muni how every enjoyment that you are adding to your quota is actually adding another suffering to your future. And if we cannot become convinced by hearing from the sages, then what will convince us? Actual misery? And when actual misery comes, my goodness, Bhagavan save us from that actual misery of suffering. Bhagavan save us from that actual misery of suffering, because when that comes, many people lose their aim of living their lives. I have seen in my own group of people whom I know, people who got such a terrible misery that they lost their purpose of living their life. They realized dukkhameva sarvam, but at what cost? At the cost of losing the purpose of their life. So you don't want to be in that situation where you get such a dukkha that you lose your very purpose of existence. And they say there is nothing to look forward to other than death. I have seen such people. I have seen in my life, I have seen such people. And you don't want to be one of them. See the people around you and realize that people are miserable everywhere. Shri Rishabhdev says this. It's so important that those instructions be taken very seriously. Sarvatra jantor vyasanavagatya jigyasaya tapaseha nivritya. I'll share the very short phrase in the 5th canto. Sarvatra jantor vyasanavagatya. In the translation, Srila Prabhupada says, and try to realize the miserable condition of living entities who are miserable even on the higher planetary systems. This is what a devotee should do. There is no love or whatever you are hoping to get in this world. Whatever like Prabhupada used to say, phantasmagoria you're chasing in this world. There is nothing of that sort in this world. There's nothing of that sort. And the sooner you realize this, the better it is for you. Because otherwise it is going to be a painful experience to come to that realization. Sooner or later, time will teach everybody. I guarantee you this. Time will teach everybody. But it is better to come to one's senses by the experiences of the sages, and rather than having to suffer personally. Because I have seen individuals I have seen one person who lost his wife. And after losing his wife, life became meaningless for that person. Meaningless. There's nothing, he told me on my face, there's nothing remaining for me in my life. Of course, he used to, come to some of my programs, and I said, well, there is bhakti yoga. He said, I can't make any sense of anything in the world. So often people who are immersed in sense gratification, when they lose the most important sense gratification that they have in the world, they often get detached from bhakti yoga too, because their purpose of existence was not bhakti yoga. Their purpose of existence was that happiness which they were deriving from that source of sense gratification. And they did not invest their priti, their love in Bhagavan when they had the opportunity. And now, after losing their sense of purpose and then having an aimless life in which they are looking forward only to death, and then what do you live for? You don't want to live like this. Param Karuna Prabhu, put yourself in such a situation. What do you live for?
Yeah, very difficult, extremely tough.
Yeah, very difficult. So why to be in such a position? I wish I could put it in better words. Why to, because somebody who has gone through it, there's a very nice verse in the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam, Yatha Kantaka Vidhango, a person who has Jantor Nechati Tam Vyatham, a person who has been pierced by a thorn. This is in the 10th canto. By seeing their faces, one whose body has been pricked by pins can understand the pain of others who are pin pricked. Realizing that this pain is the same for everyone, he does not want others to suffer in this way. But one who has never been pricked by pins cannot understand this pain. It's a very important statement in the Bhagavatam. It's very important to understand that look at other people who are suffering. Look at other people who are suffering. I can't emphasize this enough. Look at other people who are suffering. And don't think that you will remain in a situation of happiness forever. Tomorrow you will be in that situation. And something or the other will bring you to that situation. May not be the same misery, maybe some other misery. But you will be put in a similar or worse situation. And what will you do? What will you do? And just a few days ago, I just came across a news article which says that there was an Indian person who was falsely incarcerated in the United States for many decades. Can you imagine being falsely incarcerated in a prison in the United States for many decades? What do you live for, Param Karuna Prabhu? What do you live for?
And it also fills you with so much hatred and resentment.
Yeah.
But it could.
But it came to him, it will not come to me. So I can be happy, isn't it? That's what I'm living off, right? It happened with him, but it can't happen with me. So I can enjoy my life, isn't it? When will we wake up? That is the most important question. And I'm in a very sobering way, I'm saying this. Those who don't understand by good instruction will understand by time. Time is a very good teacher. So let's see the people who are already suffering. And it's very important. I always emphasize this fact. Whenever you walk in the world outside, try not to look at the people who are happy. Try to look at the people who are suffering. Try to look at them. Because in those people, you will see the reality of the material world. You will not see the reality of the material world in people who are happy. So I hope that answers the query.
Yes, Prabhuji, very wonderful. Quite sobering. May I just extend this thought a little bit, Prabhuji, to
Sure.
ask?
Sure.
So, in the Shri Madhurya Kadambini, Shri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur talks about this point of Vishaya Sangara. And he quotes that exact verses from Srimad Bhagavatam 11, 20, 27, and 28.
Yes.
Where he says that, although a person who has Shraddha in my Katha, but is still unable to renounce sense enjoyment, he should still continue his bhajan with great Dridha Nishchaya.
Yeah.
And he calls it Anishtita Bhakti.
Yeah.
So it seems like he's giving some kind of concession, not concession, but he's giving some encouragement that, okay, if you have Shraddha, but you're unable to give up sense enjoyment, keep going. So could you please kind of
Sure.
little bit integrate that in your or connect it to your answer, Prabhuji?
It's in the very section of Vishaya Sangara where he quotes Vishaya Avishta Chittanam Vishnava Vesha Suduratah Varuni Diggatam Vastu Vrajana Indrim Kimapnuyat. Vishaya Avishta Chittanam, for those whose hearts are fully invested in sense enjoyment. Vishnu Aveshaha, to invest that heart in Bhagavan. Suduratah, is far away. Varuni Diggatam Vastu, how can an object lost in the west, Vrajan Aindrim Kim Apnuyat, be found by searching the east? That is how he begins Vishaya Sangara. That gives a very important message, Prabhuji. What message does it give?
That these are mutually exclusive. Either you go west or east. You can't go both ways.
Yeah. So, still he quotes, iti bhoga eva balat swasmin abhiniveshya mam bhajane shidhilayanti iti. So, forcefully, my previous inclinations of enjoyment immerse me in them again and again. Tad ami tyaktva nama grahanam kanschana tyaktavatopi bhunjanasya. So I am trying to give them up, but sometimes, I give them up, but sometimes I again enjoy. But when I enjoy, jushamanastatan kaman parityagepi anishwaraha, because I enjoy, I am not able to give them up. But this is 11:20:28. What is the next verse? That dukkhodar comes 11:20:29. Let's look at, because those two instructions are tied together. So 11:20:28 is being quoted by Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, and it is implicitly specified there that the devotee has to come to the next instruction, which is 11:20:29. And what is the tato bhaje tamam prita, which I quoted, jushamanas chatan kaman dukkhodar kams chagarhayan, that a devotee should know that all sense gratification leads to a miserable result, and he becomes repulsed with such activities. That has to happen. That has to happen. Otherwise, it is impossible. What will you do? You can't put both your feet in the on the boat of sense enjoyment and then claim to attain Bhagavan. So this is Sangara. What is the meaning of Sangara? The meaning of Sangara, he says, Yuddham. What is Yuddham, Prabhu?
A battle, a fight.
Yeah, fight. It's not the aim of bhakti. It's a fight. It's not something you attain. You have to get out of it. And how do you get out of it? Dukkha udarkams chagar. Dukkha udarka. Udarka means they are yoni. They are sources of dukkha. The sooner we realize this, the better it will be for us. That all so-called happiness in the world is actually dukkha udarka. It's actually a source of great misery. And every yogi should know this. It is a basic requirement for karma yogi, jnana yogi, ashtanga yogi, bhakti yogi. Every practitioner of every system of yoga should know what Shri Patanjali Muni taught. Parinam tap samskara dukkhair gunavritti virodhacha dukkhameva sarvam vivekinaha. This sutra should be like a necklace around us, that this is what the world is, and see the miseries of other people. You can see it everywhere in the news. You can see it everywhere in the news. Every time, every day you open the news, this celebrity got divorced, that celebrity got cheated. You can see it everywhere in the news every day. The best or the most materially opulent people in the world, the CEOs of the biggest companies, when you see them suffering in this way in their personal relationships, you can very easily make out. Dukkhameva sarvam. Even after having all the wealth in the world, they could not prevent the dukkha which was there in their prarabdha, they could not prevent that particular dukkha. So, why not be intelligent and understand that ye hi samsparshajab hoga dukkha yonaya evate adyantavantah kaunteya na teshu ramate buddha. That is the intelligent sadhaka. That is the sincere sadhaka. And then you have immense prema, immense sukha in the descriptions of the spiritual world, in the descriptions of prema. We are not going to leave you dry that the world is miserable and then you have to die. That is not what we have to do. You know, there is something much higher to look up to and something much more joyous to look up to. But that will require a completely different mindset. Bhakti ras. Bhakti ras is the answer. But very few people will come to that point. So I hope that answers the query.
Wonderful. Thank you, Prabhuji. And Chaitanya Dev Prabhu is mentioning very correctly here, or very appropriately, that you just gave a 3-day seminar on dukkha in ISKCON Vrindavan. And please hear these very beautiful, and I have heard these and I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, I see, of all the things that I could speak about in Sri Dham Vrindavan in Kartik, I chose dukkha. So something must be wrong with me that I selected this topic. But I felt it was relevant for the devotees. So I thought of speaking something.
Prabhuji, just a quick clarification I seek from you on the previous question that was brought up about instructing near and dear family members, and you quoted 5.5.18.
Yeah.
In that respect. So one of the other things that my understanding is that after 1 or 2 times, and like you just said, but continue to after beyond that, after a point when you see that they are not receptive, continue to set a good example by your own behavior that doesn't require the involvement of the other person, of being a good devotee, and internally in your mind pray for them that they attract the mercy or the sukriti of bhagavan. So these things can be done, and I just wanted to understand there is what we want to say, or there's no aprad in this internal activities that don't force them to do anything.
Yeah, so the aprad specifically in the Sanskrit mentions yascha upadesha. The aprad says upadesh, when you try to instruct them. And once you try to instruct them twice, you find they are not favorable. And that twice you should have tried seriously, like real serious discussions, like, telling them the nature of the world and telling them what is the reality of the world, not just casual, hey, chant Hare Krishna. So not like that. So good instruction twice should have been given to them. And if they are still not willing to listen, then stop giving instruction, but you can give them something else. You can give them prasad, you can give them free goodies from the temple store. Everybody likes free things from the temple store. So give them something like that. So they have some appreciation and their favorability increases. And if someday they voluntarily come up and ask, I'm interested to know about this. So then you have another window opened. Then you can take up the opportunity and instruct them again. And I have seen individuals who were like not interested in bhakti at all. And I had seen one particular student of mine who once asked me about what practice I do when I was teaching in the college. So I told him this is bhakti yoga. I gave him a general introduction about it, but then he was not very interested. And then after about 1 year, he failed for 1 year. He failed. He had to skip a year because he failed. And it was perhaps one of the most miserable times of his student life. At that time, he came again. And then I gave him some books to study. And then he became a devotee. So today he's a devotee. Of course, after going through suffering, first-hand suffering, he became a devotee. So sometimes I say that it is important to go through first-hand suffering in order to become a devotee. But the most intelligent people are those who can see suffering in others in the world outside. So that would be that would be the best thing to do. So I hope that answers your query, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhuji, thank you so much. I just to kind of I forgot what I was going to ask. Give me
Okay,
1 second.
Yeah, maybe
Yeah.
we can take something from the chat.
Yeah,
Okay,
there is one more question from the chat, Prabhuji. This is from Bhagavati Vasudha Mataji. And she says, Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, please accept my humble obeisances. As bhakti is all-powerful and beyond all material platform, if one has little ruchi and begins bhakti and continues but has no desire for pure bhakti and considers himself not qualified, is there any hope by the power of bhakti that he develops the desire for pure bhakti?
the question is not correctly framed. If he has no desire for pure bhakti, why? Asha bandha is one of the characteristics of a devotee. Asha bandha is the hope that I will attain prema. So that is specified by Sri Rupa Goswami. If you say I have no desire for pure bhakti, that means you have no desire to love Bhagavan or the desire to be loved by Bhagavan. And why would you have such a desire? Why would you be on the path if you don't have the desire to have prema? So we are here for the highest fruit from the tallest tree, that is prema.
Prabhuji, I remembered what I was going to say.
Yeah.
So in again, the same thought on the question of relatives or very near and dear ones, the family members especially, then there is a immediate reaction to judge us that, okay, you're doing it, but you're a jerk as well. You have all these shortcomings and you behave in this way or that way. So what good has bhakti done for you? And that whole goes into that direction. So I think it also requires a level of very, very strong honesty from the side of the devotee who is trying to help his family member, his or her family member, that yes, I acknowledge and recognize these shortcomings, and I am also in a practicing stage. So in that sense, so that's and with a genuine attempt to, it's not just about doing bhakti, but developing that sadachar genuinely, so that the other person sees a genuine and honest effort on our part to remove those or diminish those shortcomings. So could you please?
Yeah, sometimes we are not the best people to speak to our relatives about bhakti. Sometimes it is some other devotee who has to come and speak. Sometimes this is the case. I knew of a person who tried for 5 years to convince his mother to become a devotee. And he used to give so many examples, and his mother would say, I know you thoroughly inside out. You don't teach me what I should do. That is what his mother told him, basically. So he came to me once, and this was in 2007 or something. He came to me once and asked me, what should I do? I want my mother to become a devotee. I said, you don't have to do anything. You just do one thing. Find out when the temple is conducting a yatra, Kartik yatra for Vrindavan, and gather some money and sponsor a free ticket for your mother on the yatra. That's all you have to do. So he took that advice, and at that time it was 5,000 rupees. So he gathered 5,000 rupees and he paid it in the temple, and he took a ticket for his mother, and he came home and told his mother, well, I have I want to sponsor a Vrindavan Yatra for you, free from my side. So it was free. She took it up why not? For free, I'll go and visit and come back. So she went with the other devotees in the train, and she saw so many people are chanting 16 rounds, and they're all following every day. And then when she came back, she was chanting 16 rounds. So I told him that, you see, what you could not achieve through your own endeavor, somebody else did it.
Yes.
So sometimes, so that is how things work in some cases.
Very wonderful. Very wonderful, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. So much wonderful advice and guidance we get. Prabhuji, I have just one last question in my mind.
I remember one thing. There was a brahmachari who was in 2007, 2008. I used to stay with the brahmacharis, and there's one brahmachari there who later became very famous, like very famous, very well known in the world. But in 2007, 2008, he used to sit with us and we used to have Prashad sitting on the floor. So recently I received a call from one of my relatives and said, do you know this particular Prabhuji? I would like to have one photograph with him. And in my mind, I'm thinking, well, in 2007, if you would have approached me, you used to take Prashad sitting beside me. That's how much, yeah, we know each other, but I just understood that some people, some relatives, some friends want a big personality to come and give them bhakti. So that's how it works for some people, isn't it?
Yes.
Like,
Prabhuji,
yeah.
Can I ask?
Is there some other question on the channel?
No.
All right.
Not that I'm seeing.
Okay.
So last question from my side, very quick one, Prabhuji. This example that you gave of Jaigi, Shavya, and Avatya rishis. I probably forgot to catch, or maybe where have you?
It is in Shri Vyasadev's commentary to Yoga Sutra, 3rd chapter, sutra number 18. I will very quickly show you. The 3rd pad is known as Vibhuti pad. In the Vibhuti pad in sutra number 18, I will tell you that is Samskar Sakshat Karanat Purva Jati Jnanam. That is the sutra. I will share my screen with you so that you can have a look at this. This is with Shri Vyasadeva's commentary. This is the sutra, Samskar Sakshat Karanat Purva Jati Jnanam. Shri Patanjali is specifying Vibhuti, the perfection, yogic perfection of Purva Jati Jnanam, of knowledge of previous lives. So how can you attain that? So he says Samskar Sakshat Karanat, by doing Sakshatkar of your previous samskaras. And then here is a Atra idam akhyanam shruyate. One story is told in this regard, heard in this regard. Bhagavato jaigi shavyasya samskar sakshatkaranat dashasu mahasargeshu janma parinam kramam anupashyato vivekajam jnanajam pradurabh. Jaigi Shavya, by his yogic siddhi, saw all his lives for the last 10 lifetimes of Brahma. Atha Bhagavan Avatyas Tanudharastam, and Bhagavan Avatya then asked him. So Dashasu Mahasargeshu Bhavyatvad Anabhibhuta Buddhi Satvenatva, and Naraka, Tirya, you saw Naraka, you saw hellish situations, you saw animal situations, you saw the wombs of many species, Deva, Manushya. And this is Sukha Dukkhayo, between happiness and unhappiness. Kim Adhikam? What was greater? That is what he asks. Bhagavantam Avatyam Jaigi Shavya Uvacha. To Avatya, Jaigi Shavya said, Dashasu Mahasargeshu Bhavyat. I remember the last, all my lives from the past 10 lifetimes of Brahma. Anabhibhuta Buddhi Satvena. And my intelligence is fixed in Sattva Guna now. Maya Naraka Tiryak Bhavam Dukkham Sampashyata. Punar repeatedly I took birth. Yat kinchit anubhutam. Whatever I experienced, tat sarvam dukkhameva pratyavaimi. All of that I see as misery. So this is in the commentary of Shri Vyasadeva to Yoga Sutra 3.18. So this is
wonderful. This is such a strong, and the reason I asked is it's such a strong statement about, because we say that yes, there is a lot of suffering, but you also become a deva, and we see in the news so much suffering, but news captures suffering. It doesn't say all planes landed safely, but if there's a plane crash, then there'll be like a one whole month of coverage of one plane crash. It doesn't cover all the 10,000 planes that land safely, but it doesn't mean air travel is unsafe. So that's the logic that is given, but that is, of course, in a different, that's for plane safety. But this is such a wonderful statement from Shastra, directly from the writing of Shri Vyasadeva, that on analyzing the entire millions and trillions of lifetimes over 10 lifetimes of Brahmaji, all he saw was dukkha. It's
Yeah.
such a powerful statement.
Yeah. So therefore, I quote this example because when I had read it many years ago, when I had read it, I could not believe it. I mean, such a powerful example, he has given. I could not believe it. And actually, even amongst the devatas, there is immense suffering, because even amongst the devatas, the relationships that they get into, the sort of luxuries that they enjoy, every luxury leaves a samskar. And samskar itself is a dukkha, which Shri Patanjali Muni had specified. A samskar itself creates a future dukkha within you. So you've enjoyed so nicely in all the heavenly planets, and then suddenly you have to take birth on earth. You have to leave all of that behind, and you have to take birth as a lesser mortal. And how would that feel? That separation from all of those things. And even while you are enjoying, there is immense competition between the lower devatas and the higher devatas and the Gandharvas, and for shared resources, and obviously who can access which place and who cannot access which place, and it all becomes so bureaucratic and political, as to you have stay within your limits while you are enjoying. So I mean, and it's a fact of life that even male and female relationships in any planet in the world are major sources of suffering for both the man and the woman. So this is confirmed by uh, Bhagavan Shri Krishna twice in the Srimad Bhagavatam, once in the third canto, once in the 11th canto. The same verse is repeated. Here is that verse, na tathasya bhaven moho bandhas chanya prasangatah yoshit sangad yatha pumso yatha tat sangi sangatah. So, Prabhu, please read the translation.
Yeah, this is wonderful. The infatuation and bondage which accrue to a man from attachment to any other object is not as complete as that resulting from the attachment to a woman or to the fellowship of men who are fond of women.
Yeah, this is in third canto. In 11th canto, the same verse, na tathasya. Repeat exactly. Yoshit sangad yatha pumso yatha tat sangi sangatah. So the same translation, same verse. Now this is for a man suffering in contact with a woman. Now a woman suffering in contact with a man, where Kapil Muni says, ताम आत्मनो विजानीयात पत्य पत्य गृहात्मकम दैवोपसादितम मृत्युम मृगयोर गायनम यथा. Please read. For a woman, what does Bhagavan say?
A woman, therefore, should consider her husband, her house, and her children to be the arrangement of the external energy of the Lord for her death, just as the sweet singing of the hunter is death for the deer.
Oh, well, it's suffering for the men, but for the women, it is death. It's nothing less than death for the woman. So, what is it for both men and women? What is there for men and women in this world? Please tell me,
Suffering.
Param Karu. That's all. That's all. The sooner you realize this, the faster you come out of it.
And I have heard Prabhuji also in the heavenly planets in Swarga. I don't know if the correctness of this, I've not seen the Praman, but all the devatas are wearing a garland. And
Yeah.
when the garland begins to wilt or show signs of wilt, it means their time is coming to an end and they have to go to Martya Lokam Vishanti.
Yeah, of course.
So every morning when they get up, there is always this anxiety. Do I see any wilted petal, any wilted leaf? And then, there is always this anxiety. When will my leaves or my petals begin to wilt?
Of
Since
course.
we are enjoying just examining their garland.
Yeah, the Bhagavatam says, Kim tvantaka silulitat patatam vimanat. They are afraid of the sword of time, which makes them fall from the heavenly planets. And why to live in such a situation? Why should a person live in such a situation? And therefore, one should definitely see the miseries even of the devatas. One should see the miseries of the devatas. People are aiming to have a better life on planet Earth, but the most intelligent person is one who can see the miseries of even the devatas, all the way up to the highest planetary system. So that is intelligence. to accept the world as it is, not to try to work around the miseries. That is not intelligence. All right.
Okay, Prabhuji. We have one last question from Bhakti Praveen Mataji. Should be a straightforward one. She says, you stated that samskara is in itself, or samskara in itself causes dukkha. But what about bhakti samskaras? Or is samskara the wrong term for bhakti impressions?
Bhakti samskars lead to for future bhakti samskars, because bhakti samskars are not based on rag and dvesh. Rag and dvesh is, what is rag and what is dvesh? Patanjali Muni explains in Yoga Sutra what is rag and what is dvesh. In the second chapter of Yoga Sutra, I will point out what is the actual definition of rag and dvesh. And this is second chapter, Sutra number 7 and 8, where he specifies what is raga. This is the definition of raga. Sukhanushayi ragaha. That what is the meaning? Sukha abhijatasya sukha anusmriti purvaha sukhe tat sadhane vayo trishna lobhaha tat raga. Once happiness is attained, so the attachment or the pull of that happiness on the heart is called raga. The pull that the happiness exerts on your heart is called raga. Simple example, children don't just learn to pick up chocolates from the store. Somebody first introduces them to a chocolate. Here is a chocolate. So they eat a chocolate for the first time. And when they eat it for the first time, the first impression of sukha, material happiness, is created in regards to the chocolate within their heart. And then that impression which follows the happiness is called raga. That pull which follows that happiness is called raga. And dvesha is the exact opposite. Dukkhanushayi dvesha. So the negative impression after experiencing some sorrow is called dvesha. So rag and dvesh is regarding material world, but bhakti samskars are not born out of one's rag and dvesha. Bhakti samskars are born out of giving pleasure to Bhagavan. So they will not result in rag and dvesha, and they will not result in further dukkha in the material world. So that is the answer to the question.
Wonderful, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. So we come to the end of all the questions. Thank you so much for your extreme patience in answering all these questions. I cannot thank you every single time that you do this. So thank you once again, Prabhuji. And all the devotees can unmute and express their gratitude for these wonderful sessions for Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.
Krishna Prabhuji, Hare Krishna. Hare Bol Prabhuji.
Krishna Prabhuji, thank you very much.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Shriman Hari Pārṣad Prabhu ki jai.
Thanks a lot.
Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Ananta Koti
Thank you
Vaishnava
so much,
Vrinda ki jai.
Prabhuji. Thank you so much for wonderful talk.
Thank you. Thank you. Ananta Koti
Thank
Vaishnava
you so
Vrinda
much,
ki jai.
Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Ananta Koti
you.
Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Hare Krishna.
So nice, so heavy class it was and so blissful.
Thank you. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. We'll sign out now.
Sure.
So we'll see you all next week. Happy Kartik month. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.